I'm not sure how many of you had heard about that news that an AI agent deleted an entire production database along with its backup volumes in just 9 seconds. Supposedly, the agent had hit some credentials problem, and instead of stopping, it improvised, found some credentials in some unrelated file, and it executed the command. Interestingly, that particular credential or that API token was not scoped. It had full account wide permissions. It was not a scoped token. It didn't have any environment isolation. It had full access, and just in one command, the entire production database gone. So now imagine like one command, database gone, backups gone, everything in 9 seconds. And the interesting part, another interesting thing to note is there were two layers of guardrails which existed. One at the model layer and second at the internal, like the enterprise particular level. When the founder asked the agent why it did so, it mentioned that it was guessing it instead of verifying, and there was no human in the loop. It didn't really ask for it, and it just executed. And it is a real story. It is not something which people have made up. It has actually happened. Now we need to understand, like, if there were two levels of guardrails, why did it still happen? Now you have to also understand that guardrails, these rules, whatever you're writing, these are basically giving you context, but they're not giving you constraint. So your agent can ignore a prompt, but what it could not have ignored is if it did not have the API, that particular scoped token permission. Like it could not call the API it didn't have the token for. It could not delete a volume. So your agent can ignore a prompt, but it cannot call an API it doesn't have a token for. It cannot delete the volume if the token had only given like a read-only permission. And it also could not have touched the production database or whatever in the production workload if the credential was scoped to test environment only. So how I like to see that when you're building agents now in production for production, prompts advisors, but the real physics is like your API tokens, your network, what you are mentioning in your API scopes. All of this is forming the actual infrastructure. This is the physics of it. And you need to build your safety layer around this such that the agent cannot really reason its way around. If you have stopped it at the infrastructure layer only, it cannot go beyond it. So I think three things to check if you're building AI agents in production. One is the token scope. Does your agent credential have the permission that it doesn't need? Very, very important. You should check that. Can it write only when it needs to read? Two would be environment isolation, test production. I think this is something which also is part of the 12-factor methodology, right? 12-factor app methodology. Test and production credentials should be separate. And third is this destructive action gates. Like when your agent calls a delete API, does the infrastructure require a second factor, like more like a second factor authentication, or does it just execute? While I was presenting a developer summit at Bangalore, somebody came up to me, some developer, and they mentioned they have 14 agents running in production and they do not have scoped tokens. And this is exactly why I've written a blog very recently on Medium. I'm going to link that in the below in the description, where I've covered that if you're building AI agents, what is that 7-dimension framework you should be knowing about, and how you can figure your way around and do the right things which you need to do. So don't forget to check that particular blog. It's a little lengthy blog,